Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Okay. So let's proceed. Okay. So we have already gone through this type of parametric analogy. Analogy is capacity versus capacities. Order of magnitude is like uh analogy, similar to analogy, is based on capacities or the numbers or the length and all that. One thing only, one parameters only. Then parametric is a few parameters, and then from the there you go for the more detailed one, that is all out rate. That one you have work breakdown times with there is quantity there. Quantity is fixed already, but you don't know the flow of work of how the thing will be constructed on site, because different contractor will have different mentality and different numbers of resources and all that. So you want to have an estimate, you come up with an all out rate. And all out rate will be standard, very standard, that to do that particular work. Okay, you need very standard amount of people, very standard amount of machineries, and that all out rate will include all of them. We do not want you to split out like, okay, this material, this work, you split out machineries, labor, material, and you do 3 calculations. Normally, we don't do that, okay? If you want, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? You can, but the accuracy, I just don't think it's necessary, because you're actually doing a lot of work, and yet it may not be meaningful at the end of the day. So what I prefer is just one rate. For detailed estimates, we will do more on, yes, you will have what I show you, work breakdown with the different category of labor, machineries, material first, and then machineries or labor. Labor, you've got skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled, into different categories, and then each and every one of them, you really have the quantity and the numbers and all that to complete that particular job. Okay, and then you will add up with the machineries. Okay, the machineries also have major, minor, plant, equipment, and then you really have the numbers and all that. So what we will do with that is you will really key in the resources into the resources data sheet. And from the resources data sheet, what the next step is, the normal circumstances, you will have to go and do the resources planning, the loading and all that based on your technique that I taught you guys the other day, leveling or smoothing, and then you know the fixed amount of labor on site. So then you go back and you tinker with the amount that you have, the amount of resources that you have. You go back and you double check on the numbers that you key in now, because now with the fixed amount, the numbers may change. So once the number change, that will be the final fixed number, and you will times it with the rate that is given to you. Okay, or that you found out, is it JKR or is it contractors, or is it your experience, your actual rate of labor, your actual rate of material, your actual rate of machineries. And this is not all up one, this is really every single one. If you have one carpenter, you times it with the time this is working, times by the rate per day, that really times it out one by one. So that is how we calculate your detailed cost calculation. We've shown you examples in the notes on that. Okay, and now that you have done all that, okay, the next thing is about financial management of the project. Looking at the cost of the project is one portion. So that is cost estimation. Estimation is the background, is the foundation. So once the budget is being once the estimates is being confirmed, okay, it will become the budget for your project. And how do you know what are the budgets? There's 2 ways. First is what I taught you guys how to do. You go from the project, you calculate from your conceptual to preliminary to all the way up to your detailed calculation. You take that final one, you go to the client and you say, this is the cost of the project. And are you confirmed on this? And if they say yes, this is what we mean by bottom up budget, meaning that you are going from bottom, you are doing the work, it goes from bottom up, and the client confirm on that. and then you will send it out for tendering, for procurement process to start. In the procurement processes, the contractor will quote. They will go through the whole project, like what the designers will go through, and they will come up with their own calculation. And then when the calculation comes out, hopefully it's very close with the estimates that you put in. If it's not, then the client will finally also decide whether to go for that or not. If there's no discount means or whatever, then you will fix that, and that will be the final budget for the job. That means this is the amount that will be finally paid to the contractor to get the project at the end of the day. It's just like you get a quote, and then now you get a job. The actual job will be done by somebody, and that somebody quoted you, and you follow that. So that will be what we call a bottom-up budget. There is many cases whereby you have a top-down budget. If you work for government agency or some clients, private clients as well, there are top-down budget, meaning that they have certain budgets. Like I want to build this area, the drain, to cover flooding purposes. So I have a 5 million budget. And a 5 million budget, I will get you to do design. Engineer to do design, clean, conceptual, whatever. You ding dong. At the end of the day, you work within that 5 million. There will be cases that is under, like you design and everything. Oh, it only costs like 3.9 million. The client may say that I have a 5 million budget, why don't we use it? So they will get you to expand the design. I've seen, the drain project that I was telling you just now, we actually went through that, There were a 5 million project. It was a 4.5 million to 5 million kind of budget. We end up designing only 3.9 million. Honestly, this is a real example. Then after that, the client said, we still got money, so why don't we just expand it to like upstream another 1 kilometer? Can you design that? So, okay, we go back, we change the design, and then we do the budgeting and everything, and then come back. Oh, here, 4.3. And he said, so then he actually wants something else. Like our extend the grade. Then actually, at the end of the day, we bust the budget. So once we bust the budget, they will cut off. I said, okay, now we only stop at way. So these are some of the clients, not some, actually a lot of clients are like that. That is their kind of attitude. They want to use the money. Money is not theirs. It's actually like government agency. Sometimes it's their, it's the budget that they have from the government, and this is taxpayer money, of course. So they want to do more, just to finish the budget. Otherwise, if they don't finish the budget, they have to send it back to federal or to the state government, and then it's very difficult to get future budget again. So they will prefer just to expand the scope of work as well. So that is top-down budget. Okay, so budgeting, we've got top-down budget and also bottom-up budget. Okay, and the technique of estimating has been taught to you. Type of budget has been explained to you. So once you've got the budget in your hand, what do you do with this budget? Of course, the contractor will go and buy materials, and they will go and hire people, bring in machinery, and things that get started on site, Then there's a very important part here that you want to control the budget, meaning that you want to bust the budget. Once the estimate, the word estimate is being changed to budget, you don't want to bust the budget, When you bust the budget, the client is not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. Everybody is going to be in trouble, So we will not want to bust the budget. So it is always the aim of project management to control the budget or to do the project or to construct the project within the budget given. So there are many ways of how we can manage our costs, okay? Meaning that cost control, how much we can manage our costs, okay? There's many techniques that we can do to manage our costs. And one of them is what we call the S-curve, okay? S-curve is like this. It's a monitoring tool, okay? It's a planning tool. It's also a monitoring tool. So it is a display of cumulative costs, labor hours, plotted against time. So this is a technique that actually combines cost and time together. And it will actually always look like a snake. So we call it S-curve, but it is not really an S at the end of the day. it will always be a slow, deliberate beginning, going up in the middle, accelerating, and then slowing down, decelerate at the end. So that one is always like a little snake coming down like that. So we call it an S curve. Okay, and so typical S curve, you have two types of S curve. One of them is called physical S curve, and one of them is called financial S curve. Okay, so both we will explain it here. So S curve is like we are creating is the background S curve, like a baseline S curve. Okay, remember these are techniques to do control, and S curve can help to control both time and cost at the same time. This is a quite a good technique to do both. Okay, so example here, you've got different activities, and then you've got days, you know, start date, end date, cost of project, and this is the resources, and then this now we're trying to convert this into financial S curve. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to take the activities, okay, your work breakdown, then the duration. So this is the same thing like what we have. Remember when we actually do your work breakdown structure, you have your layers, different layers, and then after you've done your different layers, you calculate your time. So you have your time, correct or not? You have your duration, correct or not? So then in your duration, I mean in your schedule, you will basically see this row, column 1, column 2, and this, correct or not? This will be your schedule, yeah? So once you combine that with your cost, so then in the right way is you do your schedule. After you do your schedule, you do your CPM. And then after your CPM, you find your total float and free float. And then after your free float, you understand your free float, you play with your free float, you play with your resources, correct or not? And then you actually level your resources or smooth your resources. Then you've got the final amount of workers and machineries on site. And then from there, you will go back to your cost. You go back to your costing sheet. Like example, I've shown you something like this. Yeah, something like this. So then from there, you will calculate your costing, correct or not? Then there's another example that the costing sheet that I actually also show you guys was this one as well. Let me upload it somewhere. Okay. Where is it? Okay, here. So this is a type of sheets that you have in order to produce something like this. So this particular sheet, you know, can you see the similarity? You've got your work breakdown here, and then here you've got the final amount here on the other end. You can see that. So we are actually inputting that activity and also the cost here. So with the original schedule, you're adding in the column on cost, and this is the cost that you get actually from here. You see, these are the costs that you have, you know. So you're actually inputting this into here. You see, I mean, this is a different example, but basically that's what you do. You see, so you put there into here, and then after that, what do? You see, okay. You can see across the time how many bars, I mean, how many columns that it takes up. So not necessarily you divide exactly with 3. What I can say is, I've said this before, 1,400, let's say 1,400. You can actually have $400 in the beginning, 500 later. So you are actually spreading your cost over the Gantt chart. And this technique here is different from resources. Resources is you have 3 numbers, you need to put 3, 4 all the way. You cannot have 3.5 or 4, you know, you cannot split your workers out. But for money, you can decide if activity A is more onto money used at the beginning, then you may have 1,000 here and 200 later. Okay, 2,700 does not mean that you have to divide by 5. Okay, basic example, no brainer, divide by 5. Because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. You spend equally. But in real life project, you don't do that, you know. You actually don't spend equally. Okay, You don't spend equally. Normally, you will have either something more in the beginning and then something flatter at the end, or something beginning, something that you really pay a lot of money at the end, but beginning very low. Something that you may have even in 1 month, nothing, and then you have like next few months equally also possible. So again, this spreading of money over the timeline is pretty much what a project manager themselves will decide. You need to know the nature of your work to do a good spread. Okay? Pipeline. I would say pipeline, 70% of the money is in the beginning 3 months, because you're buying the pipes, you need to pay for them. And that is a lot of money. The working, the labor, everything is a lot more cheaper. If this is pipeline, water reticulation, 3,500, I would say I will have 1,000 in the first 2 months. Then the rest, 1,005, I will split it across the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 300, 300, 300, 300. That is how I will split. Okay. So again, this one here is just general. Okay. You can just do divide if you want, but actually it's not true. You don't really have to do that. Okay. So then after that, you will do cumulative. Okay, I skip this slide because this one is based on this. They do an average. Okay, but like I said, if you don't do an average, you actually split it up differently across the board. What you can do, the next thing is you go down in one, just like your resources histogram. You go down, go down, go down, go down, go down, go down, and this is the amount that you have. Okay, costing per week or per month or whatever. Then you do your cumulative. Cumulative is this, down, plus this, down, the total plus this, down, total plus this, down. So that you cumulate it, okay? Cumulate it, and then you draw your Excel curve. And that is what we call the S curve. This is what we call a financial S curve. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, how did you find this? Okay, tell me. Okay, let me finish this. I think we should finish the class first before we do any Q&A. Okay, so cumulative and financial S curve is what you plan. You plan to show your client this is how you're going to spend the budget over the next 18 months, over the next 6 months, over the next few days. Here is days lah. Here is like 20 days. Okay. It doesn't say that, there is a lot of other information that will come with it later. Okay. But in general, it's telling the client that, okay, look, you have money, you have budget. Let me tell you how to spend it, when to spend it, when you need to pay me, or when you need to pay the contractor. Okay. So the contractor usually will be the one, or the production line, or whatever industry that you are in. When you do the S curve, you will be telling the client that you are actually, this is how they have to pay as the time goes by. Okay, so after that, in what we call the EV technique, okay, so this is the S curve lah, huh? You don't have to go and adjust it to make it very S, okay? Some young engineers sometimes ask me, like, madam, my S curve not S, then how? I think you really have to have an S. So, they really think that the S curve must be an S, So some projects, the S curve is not really S. Some of it can be very, very flat, like that, almost like a line, but it's just a name, come on, if your name Alan means brave, does not mean that you're really brave, right? Or not. Yeah, or if your name means that you're beautiful, does not mean that you're beautiful, right? It's the same thing, S curve is an S curve, is a name, does not mean that it has to be an S, isn't it? So yeah, some people like Chinese or we Asian like to give our children names that mean something, like beautiful, Chante, Jalita, then you end up not very Jalita. So why you're gonna call your mom and say that how come I'm not very pretty, is it? Yeah. So S-curve is that you don't call me up and say, hey, doctor, my S-curve not very S very how. So, okay, you see, this one here is not very, this one is not so S as well, you know. There are some is really nice. They go like this, and then they go up like this, and then they will like flat at the back there. There are some projects that are like that, but not all are like that. Okay, so just an indication of the curve. And this curve, before I move into talking about physical S-curve, I want to finish talking about financial first. EV technique is actually a technique that is based on S-curve. Okay, so from the S-curve that you produce, okay, from the S-curve that you produce just now, like in this case, you have one example here. Okay, so this is the S-curve that you have, and then when we go to EV technique, this is what we call the planned value. EV technique is actually a technique that was designed, I don't remember by which agency, not Malaysian, I think it's by one of the US Marine or some sort of like a military, whatever, you know, agency or something like that. I couldn't remember exactly, but it was quite an important agency. So they actually came up with this technique to actually monitor project cost and times and schedule. Variances is actually a detection method, meaning that when you do EV every month, you are actually detecting whether you're going to have cost and budget overrun at the same time. Okay, and the first thing in EV technique is you need that S-curve. You know, you need that planned value. You need that value from here. So this is the curve that you need. So they call this planned value, PV. PV means budgeted cost of work schedule. So can you see why we call budgeted cost? These are your budget. Schedule. These are your schedule. So the first PV is the first S-curve that you draw and send it to your client. And that is the part every client will ask for your financial S-curve because they want to know how to spend the money. That is one purpose. The next purpose is it will be used for monitoring purpose. Number two is what I'm talking about now. First, you tell them, okay, 1 month you're going to spend this much, next month you're going to spend. By the end of the project, you finish spending the money, but the outflow of your money will be like this every month. Okay? Cumulative lah. So then once this is there, understand it already, then you use this for monitoring purpose. And then first curve we call PV, and this is called, you just imagine the word BCWS, budgeted cost of work schedule. Okay, so you've already done your PV. So once you've already submitted to the client, you've basically done your PV. Okay, so then what do you do next? After you've done your PV, okay, this is your PV, this is your S-curve, this is your PV. So then when the project starts to be ongoing, there will be actual cost of works. Okay, so we call this AC, actual cost of work performed. Okay, so what does it mean? How do you get AC, you ask me? Okay, right. So when you go to your original S-curve, now you can see that activity A by that. When you have EV, right, you always have a cutoff point. So let's say I cut off at day number 3. So if we imagine this as day number, or this is month, let's say, we cut it off at that one point. When you use EV technique, you need to cut off because we are looking at what happened to your cost and time at that point in time. So when you do a cut off at day 3, activity A, you ask, okay, complete already. So that is the actual cost of work performed. Okay, so I mean this is the work performed. It's already been performed. And how much was spent? So that means in the client point of view, if there is no VO at all, no variation to the work at all, that is basically the budget that you have spent. So they have paid you 1,400. Okay, that would be the budgeted cost of actual cost of work performed. So meaning that unless there's more lah. So the accounting section said, oh, for this cost, the contractor actually paying something extra because the design wasn't ready, etc., etc., etc. So then the cost may be different from what you actually planned. Okay. So then it will be like, okay, the work is done. This is the actual cost. So your curve, you will draw, you will punch it in at that point, 1,000. This is going to be a curve. This is going to be the time. Time. This is going to be time. This is going to be the budget. So if let's say 1,400 has been spent, then on the graph itself, you will have 1,400. So you have to punch in 1,400 in total. Okay, that is being spent. Okay, so then you will see that from the variances, is there any variances with the example that I gave you just now? Basically, it's going to be the same dot that you're going to get in month 3 because it's on time, it's on budget. Okay, but in the event that maybe when you come out at month 3, the only work that is done is month 1 and month 2 work. Okay, so then what is the actual cost of month 1 and month 2 work? And then the client already pay you 1,400 for month 1 and month 2 work. That means your dot will be different already, It will be dotted in a different place already. And then when you see the formula, okay, after you put in your AC, okay, you will be able to calculate your EV, okay? And your EV is the budgeted cost of the work performed, okay? So you will key in another value here. One is the actual cost, one is the budgeted cost. The budgeted cost is the part that you've only done 2 months worth of cost. 2 months worth of work is supposed to be only 1,000 ringgit. So that would be 1,000. So you need to key in another dot onto the graph, 1,000. And then the actual cost was actually how much was spent. The client pay you 1,004. So the client pay you 1,004. The actual AC was 1,004. EV was 1,000. Okay. So with the formula that is given, earn value EV minus actual cost and schedule is EV minus PV. With these two formula, if there is a negative value that comes out, you will see that your project is actually overrun. If a negative value that comes out from the SV, this is the time overrun. You see, it's a very powerful tool. Straight away, you can detect from the original S-curve. So original S-curve, you don't touch already. You draw it already, yeah? So you've already drawn it. Is there any graph here? Let me see. Yeah. So the original one is PV. PV is that line. Okay, so this is PV. So this line is PV. Okay. Then the second line, the clean line is PV. So PV is here. So this is what you've already planned. This is PV. This is the S-curve that I taught you how to draw just now. Okay. Then on the month that you are cutting off, you cut it off, you need to count your AC and your EV. Your AC is actual cost, the actual money that was paid to you, okay, as a contractor, okay, and EV is the actual, is the budgeted cost of the work performed, meaning that if you only perform 70%, what was the original budget that was given at 70%? You understand? So when you punch in these two lines, you get the difference between EV and PV and EV and AC. You will be able to get your cost variance and schedule variance. Okay, so these are one very important technique that is actually based on S-curve. So draw your S-curve at the time that you're supposed to look at the project. You need to go back to the site with all the site information that you get as a project manager. Your report, the site daily report and all that. You will know the percentage of work that was done. Okay, with the percentage of work, how? You can go back to your original schedule that you have done, and then you draw the line down that month, okay, and then you see how for that month you're supposed to finish 70%. So actual work done was how much? 60%, 70%, 80%. So you need to key it, you need to do your tracking done. Remember when we talk about time management, we talk about tracking done. That is one way of monitoring time. So in your tracking done, 60%, then your chart will be 60%. It will be like tracking done will show you that 60% of the work was done. So this 60%, what was the actual cost of constructing this 60%? Okay. So what do I mean by actual cost? From the client point of view is I've already paid you how much at this point in time. That is the actual cost. Okay. Then from the EV perspective, it will be I've only done budgeted cost of the work performed. So meaning that budgeted cost of the work performed, meaning that 60%, what was the cost that is supposed to be using for that? What is the budget that you're supposed to be using for that particular 60%? That is the EV. Okay. Digest. Whoever tells you project management is easy has been lying to you, isn't it? I have a feeling, I have a picture in my head that all of you are like looking at the computer screen. If you have been listening, every one of you will be like, oh, what on earth is she talking about? Okay, imagine everybody's face looking very stunned. Like, oh, don't worry, it's like, I will explain. I would definitely like to explain it to the best that I can, So you have to ask questions, if you are actually having confusion here. Another example that we have in another set of notes is the S-curve as well. So I have two notes here that are S-curve, based on S-curve. So this bit here, when you have it's a plan baseline. Remember that PV plan value S-curve baseline. Okay, so you draw that first. This is the first step, and then after that, what you do is this is physical S-curve. I will explain physical in a while. After this, I don't want to confuse you even further. Okay, I'll just go for financial first. Okay. Oh, sorry, this one is purely on physical S-curve. Okay, it's okay. So then I will rename my notes a little bit later on. Okay, this is purely on physical S-curve. So let's settle financial S-curve. So here, again, I repeat, example. Okay, let's say in day, you've done your PV. Okay, now we embark onto EV technique. Month by month, imagine this is month. Okay, imagine month 1, month 2, month 3. This is talking about 20 months here. So let's say in month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, in month number 8, I want to do monitoring. Monitoring is done every month. When you talk to client, monitoring is every month. You need to submit your work progress report every month. So what you do is you just draw a line down. Draw that line down here. So then first you have a point number 1, PV at month 8. Okay, this is your PV. So now you want to find your EV. EV is you want to find your AC first. Your AC is in month number 8. In month number 8, what was the actual work performed? Okay, so you've got to go back to your schedule and your set daily record and check, has this activity finished? If this activity is 100%, if this activity finished or not, okay, it is finished, or is not finished, is 90%. And then if this activity is finished or not, month 8 is here. Okay, I'll put my cursor here to make it clearer. Okay. So then in every in your original schedule, your tracking gun will be able to tell you every activity, how much completion. Okay. So if the completion is 100% for activity A, activity B is 80% or 90%, activity C is supposed to be at this point in time, you're supposed to have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're supposed to have done about 40% or 35% or so, 35 to 40%, but you've only done like 10%. So that one is already fixed, you see. I mean, like that one is you cannot tell lie. It's already in the schedule tracking gun. So with that, check what was the money that was paid already fully up to this point in time. Okay. So if the money actual cost that has been paid to you, you key in up to this point in time, you just key in, you just punch in the value. The total is cumulative also. Okay, it's a total. Okay, so you just punch it in and you draw in your, it's up or down here, we don't know. The client could have paid you a lot more, if they could have paid you a lot less as well. Okay, so then that is your AC. Then in that same, after understanding the percentage of work that has been completed, you need to check based on that percentage. If this is only 20% done, what was the actual cost for that 20%? If this is only 80% done, what is the cost for this 80%? If this is 20% done, what is the cost for that 20%? So then from there, you will be able to calculate your EV. It's not hard, right? I mean, like 100% means that 1,400 has been done. 80% of this is actually how much? 2,100 plus, 20% of this is 700. So total, how much has been spent? I mean, budgeted cost of work performed. So the work that is performed, what was the budget for it? So you just have to punch it in here. Is it under or above? Should be under, because this is a lot under, you see. So you're supposed to have done a lot more, but you're actually under. So you actually put it under. Then from there, you've got 3 dots, correct or not? 3 dots here, up or down or whatever. So using that formula from EV technique, you just have to put in the earned value minus the actual cost, the EV minus the actual cost, and the EV minus the PV. Then you will get your negative or positive value. If it's positive for cost variance, means that you are actually spending under the budget. Okay, it's good. Because when you're spending under the budget, it means what? It means that your job is not done. Okay? It's not done, that's why you're not you're not spending. Okay? Schedule variances is where you put EV minus PV. And then if you a positive, negative value, that means you're delayed. But if you get a positive value, that is good, because that means you're actually faster. Okay? So all this will tell you, of course, if you get 0, that is the best one, because that means that it's actually on, everything is on the dot. That's nice, but you hardly get that. You hardly really get that, honestly. But it's possible, but does not mean that, maybe in the manufacturing, in the mechanical, in the manufacturing environment, you probably get that, because everything is more precise and it's in a closed environment. But for construction cases, you hardly will get that. Like you just don't get too negative or too positive. That's what we hope for, but around that region will be good enough, So this is like an alarm bell. So every month the client no need to look at your site, your many daily report. Every day you write all those sort of things. They will straight away look at these two values. They will know their project is actually over time, under budget, overrun, or under budget, or too fast or too slow, or on time. Okay. 0 means on budget, on time. Positive for cost variance means that you are underusing the budget. Negative for cost variance means that you're overusing the budget. Overpaying you. They overpay you. As a client, when they see negative value, they're going to get very scared, because that means they have overpaid you and they don't like it. Okay? And they will prefer to be underpaid. Okay? And of course, as a contractor, if I see that if I see a negative value, that means they are actually underpaying me. I will actually use it as excuse. Can I have more money? Can you pay me more? Kind of thing. So yeah, that would be what your response will be. Then schedule variances, of course, is very important. So in other words, EV technique based on S-curve technique is kill two birds with one stone. One technique apply, straight away you have an alarm bell. You're installing two alarms, one for cost, one for schedule. That is a very powerful technique that can give you an indication of what is happening on your site monthly, weekly, daily. If you follow this through, we don't do it daily, we will do it like maybe monthly, usually monthly. And here also there's some examples. Okay, so we have like plan value is 1 to 5 days. 5 days will work 500 ringgit. So your plan value, if you split up your cost properly, 1 day is 500. Here is 1 day is 500. Then on the month that you cut off, let's say at the certain point in time after 5 days you cut off, how much work have you done? Okay, if you have only done 3 days worth of cost, that was the budget 300 ringgit. Okay, and then what was the actual cost? The actual cost was actually 400 ringgit overspent already, actually the actual cost that you spend for this amount of money. It does not mean that you are overspending because, it doesn't mean that you are off the budget, because 400 ringgit is still within 500 ringgit. You maybe claim less at the end, then we don't know. Okay, but with the actual cost that you spend on the 5 days, okay, from these three things, this minus this or this minus this, you will be on this day, on this stripe of this line, EV is 300. If you minus PV on this stripe, it's also 500 because that was the planned amount of work. Okay, so EV minus PV, 300 minus 500, your schedule is actually delayed. Okay, EV minus AC is negative also. That means you are actually having a cost overrun. Okay, it's a very simple example of how you do the calculation. Okay, and the other thing that you will need to understand also is in exam, a lot of times we may give you questions like this, for you, we may give you data like this. So for you to draw your PV, and then we'll tell you that at month five, for exam purpose, normally we will give you the actual cost. We'll say, okay, at month 5, the money spent was 5,000 ringgit. Okay, and then the work done was how much? Yeah, so from there, you need to go back and do few calculations. Number 1, you already come up with the PV. Okay, number 2 is you will come up with the actual, the percentage that was done, the work done. You need to count that back with the budget that was given, budgeted cost of work performed. The best way for me, honestly, is to look at these words here very carefully. This word here explains a lot of it, explains of how you should approach the formula. Budgeted cost of work schedule. Okay, meaning that you go to your budget, you go to your schedule, you punch it in, you draw your S-curve. This is budgeted cost, BCWS. PV. AC is the actual cost, meaning that amount, we need to give you the actual expenditure. And then EV is the budgeted cost of work performed, meaning that work done, how many percent, you go back to the budget, you times it, and you get that percentage. You get that numbers based on that budgeted cost of work performed. Okay, so with that performance, and then with that, you will use this formula to do the calculation. Another way is we will give you a scenario. This company is supposed to do 5 buildings, 5 hostels in 20 months. Okay, and each hostel is budgeted for 2 million. Okay, so basically you need to know that over 20 months, you are supposed to be having, your PV will be 20 months, and then you have your budgeted cost, which is 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, that is 10 million ringgit. 10 million over 20 months. Okay? Money that is, this is PV. So money that you're supposed to spend on 20 months is 10 million. So 1 month is how many million? Okay, or half a million. I think it's half a million now. So that is your PV. So you calculate your PV. Understand? I'm saying this once, you have to listen to this very carefully. Because this is a type of exam questions that can come out. Then after that, I will tell you, by month 8, what happened? You know, I will describe the scenario to you. By month 8, company A has already spent 9 million. Okay? By 9 months, spend 9 million. And the work, 2 hostel has been completed. You get what I mean? So this is the scenario that we will set up. So you need to find your PV. The AC is 9 million because I give you this the actual cost. You need to recognize, you know, because a lot of students, when they come to this question, they don't recognize what is AC, PV, and PV, you see. So it's all in the keywords. It's all in the wordings, you know, that you need to pick up. So then they have actually done 2 hostel. Budgeted cost of 2 hostel is how much? 4 million. Okay? So you have your 8 months, your 9 months, you're supposed to spend 9 months, 4.5 million. Okay, so your PV is 4.5 million. Your AC is, how much should I say just now? I forgot already. Can somebody remind me? And then your PV is 4 million. Okay, so then you punch the number in, and then you do your calculation. Then you tell me whether it's a negative or positive, or what does negative mean, what does positive mean. Okay, so that is one way of approaching the kind of questions that you will get for EV technique. So in terms of real life, when you're actually working, you will actually look into your S-curve, okay? And every month, almost every month, you will ask to do, you know, you will ask to punch in the AC and PV, and then the AC PV will grow as you go along. So the tree curve will end up to be completed by the end of it, you know, but month by month, you only have one PV that's a complete line, and then the AC and the EV will be the dotted as you go along. And then you will calculate that every month. Okay? So that is what we mean by financial S-curve. Okay? And from the other perspective, if I'm the contractor, I can use this technique also to monitor my financial matters. Okay? With my PV, okay, I can actually go to my account section and I ask my accountant or my account clerk, can you tell me how much money was spent on the project already at this point in time? Your accountant in most construction company or in most of the company, they have accountants that will, you know, they will issue payment, you know, every month and all that. So they will have a record of how much money was spent on the project, you see. And most likely is they will keep a project spending expenses list. So then they will able to give you that month we have already spent AC how much. Okay. And when you are a contractor, you don't base it on the tender price lah. You will base it on your own budget, meaning that for this work, before you key in any margin or anything, the cost, it really is the cost of the work. That is from the contractor's perspective. I'm actually talking about the contractor supplier perspective now. Just now I was talking from the client, the EV technique from the client and the, you know, from the entire project client's perspective in that sense. So let's say I'm a contractor, I will just pick before I go for tender, I already calculate my cost, correct? And then I also will when I get the tender, I will also call up the different suppliers, ask for discount, because now I'm very sure that I've got the project. I call my subcontractor, do out my contract with them. I call up my suppliers, talk to them and get discount and all that. So actually at the end of the day, you have a list of your costs of of your work, you see. And this is actually different from the tender sum. This is from the beginning one that I talked to you is actually based on tender sum, meaning that you actually go for the work that is budgeted already from the client's perspective. So from a contractor's perspective, this is how much I'm going to spend, you see, on this activity A, on this activity B, on this activity C, on this activity D, on this activity E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So then I asked my account clerk, can you give me the AC, the actual cost that I've spent? And from there, you also look at the work that is done. The same thing is you can actually monitor your expenses. Okay? Are you overspending on your own project or are you underspending on your own project? This is also a very good way. This 3 lines is also a very good way. If you base it on the contractors, the initial this cost, if you base it on their budget to complete the project, then it's also doable. It's actually very powerful as well. Okay? This is financial management. As a contractor company, money is everything. If you are also doing a new product or in manufacturing or whatever, it's also a very important thing that you know how much money you're going to spend on marketing, how much money you're going to spend on the production line, how much money you're going to spend on buying the machines, how much money you're going to spend on buying the first batch of materials, to do the first set of products and all that. It's all very important, So then, from the perspective, you need to manage the money. You don't go and say, okay, budget is this much, and then you go to sleep, and the next 10 months you wake up, everything is fine. There is no such thing, So month by month, we need to do a lot of financial management. This is more on financial management already. So you need to know, I originally as the supplier or as the builder of the facilities or as a contractor, I'm going to spend this amount on activity A. I'm going to spend this amount on activity B. I'm going to spend this amount on activity C. I'm going to spend, and then I list it down. Then I will, at the end of the closing, at the end of the month, I will check with my account side. We have a meeting, sit down, show me the expenses list. How much has been paid to subcon? How much has been paid salary? How much material money has been paid? And all that. So I will know actual cost for that month. How much money that I got. All contractor will tell you this. They will have the expenses list. They are keeping that expenses like their baby, like that, all tied up, locked up, so that make sure that they really know what is going on. If you really like playing now, then you don't know anything. But if you're a serious person, serious manager, you need to know this. So AC, you punch it in, then you look at the work that was done on site, then you take that and calculate back with your original budget as in your original expenses that you plan to have. Straight away, you can tell yourself that your work is okay or not okay. Are you over budget or are you under budget? Okay, straight away you can tell already. Even if you don't care about time, this contractor, as I know that myself. You're there every day. You know that it's overtime. You don't need EV to tell you that you're overtime or undertime. You already know. But budget can be more sensitive. It's more based on numbers. Point something. There's a lot of numbers to it. So it's better to calculate that properly. Okay. So that will be financial S-curve EV for contractor to manage their own finances. Okay. And the other perspective that I also want to bring up is, if I combine PV, this PV, let's say I take the one that I submit to the client, my PV. Okay. And how do I manage my cash flow as a contractor? I will take my PV, I will take the same PV, I will look at this PV, I will use this PV, leave it there, and I will actually look at my project sum, and I will do a cash flow in and out, meaning that I will actually look at month 1, based on your budget, how much will you be spending? So you will look at your budgeted cost of the work that you are planning to perform. You're looking, that budget is different from this budget. You're looking at your expenses, okay? So your expenses, right? So then you have the PV for your client, then you have the PV for your own expenses, correct enough, yeah? So from there, you can see the difference, okay? Usually it should be under lah. This is a contract sum, so yours should be underneath here somewhere lah, huh? Then you will know that, oh, I'm supposed to be receiving this amount from the client, but my spending will be around this amount, you know, or I give you a higher example. So this month I'll be spending this amount, but I mean, the client should be paying me. I mean, the work done will be about this amount. I'll be spending somewhere here, okay? Then these differences is the money that you have to be forking out, because you may not get payment from the client. You don't get payment from the client every month, you see. So you will probably submit a claim after 3 months, and then they don't pay you 2 months later, you know, or you expect them to pay you every month, but then they don't, you see. So then from there, you should be able to gauge whether your cash flow will be negative or positive, meaning that the client is supposed to pay you, say, 1 million. By now, you should be receiving 1 million. Actually, you only receive how much? Okay? And then your spending is supposed to be how much? That PV that you draw, it's supposed to be how much? So from there, you will see that there will be a difference there. And that is the amount of money that you will see. If you have the amount of money in the bank, then that's fine. You know, you are quite safe for that month. But this cash flow thing, you know, you're rolling out a lot of cash every month, you know. So if you are not careful, suddenly your bank go empty, and then you're supposed to pay all your subcon, but you haven't received any payment from your client for over 6 months already. That could be a big issue. That's a big alert that, you know, you're going to have a cash flow redness zone coming up, and then you cannot afford that, okay? So that is another way of managing our cash flow. So repeat that again, okay? What you need to do is you take the PV from the client. This is the amount of money that, I mean, these are not, I won't say this is the amount of money that they will pay you every month. This is the kind of spending that is projected, but obviously they don't pay you every month, okay? So with that projection, you also draw another line based on your own PV of your expenses based on your budget of expenses on the activity. You also have another PV, correct now? So with this 2 PV here, you will see that if there's any big, huge difference between what they pay you and what you need to spend, okay, you need to get ready that amount of money, you know, over time. Okay, so this is initially at the very beginning of the project. If you do that, then you will see that, okay, by certain months, I'm actually spending this amount of money already. The client will only be paying me this, the client will be paying me this much. Okay, so there will be some sort of like differences. Okay, there'll be some differences, and that differences, if the client don't pay you, that will be the money that you need to fork out that month. You see, so you have to be careful of that difference. You see, and that is a part that you may get loans from the bank. For that project, you may get investment from other shareholders or other people who want to invest in your project. How much do you need to get, you see? I mean, you cannot simply tell your shareholders, hey, you know, like, come on, this is a 20 million project. You give me 20 million, you know? No such thing, correct? Now, so you will need to come out with the figure that you need to your investor to invest, or you need to get bank loans for you to get yourself through this month by month, you see? So with these 2 PV lines, one line is about how much money that you should be receiving from them. Another one that how much you'll be spending on the project. So with that differences, pick the biggest differences, and then you will see that will be the amount of money that you really should be having to tie you through those very negative months. Okay, so that is one way of doing it. And the other one is, as you go along, you take your own PV, so you get rid of this PV, you take your own PV, and then you punch in, client pay you what, client pay you what. They pay you what in maybe 3 months, pay one time, and then another 3 months, pay one time. So, you know, you are always going to, that curve of them paying you will be, you know, like a step curve. You know, it's like a step. They pay you and then stop for a few months and then pay you again, you know, stop for a few months, pay you again. You know, and then that is the part that when you match up with your own expenses, you will also know that there are really upcoming months straight away as you're monitoring the cash flow for your project, straight away you may have a negative in the coming month, you see. So it's about catching the client's pattern as well in that sense. Yeah. So that is what we call financial management for our project, basically. Not only we need to know how, as engineers, we need to do estimates, budgeting, a lot of different type of budget, different type of costing. You also need to know how to do ESCA for the on-site monitoring. And then to go even deeper is about managing a company, a construction company, or a manufacturing company, or production line or whatever. You need to, as a project manager, you really need to know about cash flow, about negative cash flow, about getting money ready. Otherwise, you may go bankrupt before you even know it, okay? Otherwise, every month you'll be going around borrowing people's money. You know, can you borrow money because I don't have money to pay somebody? Or your workers come to you and knock on your doors and say that you haven't been paying them on time, and they'll leave and go out to other side. The suppliers don't want to supply you things because you haven't been paying them on time. Reputation, goodwill is so important in any business that you carry out. So this is more on business financial management. Okay, not so much on I think it's the same thing. I mean, we are managing as you progress in your career, you'll be managing your own contractors firm, your own production line. You know, you become project manager. You know, so your responsibilities get bigger and bigger. The thing that you will be exposed to, the worry that you will have is a lot more. And most of the time, we are worried about money. Okay? We are worried about money. Any experienced contractor, they're always worried about cash flow. They have a lot of money. You know, the project looks like a lot of money, 20,000, 220 million, 50 million, you know, wow, much like million A like that, you know. But then you look at the bank account, oh, for so one, because the client hasn't been paying you and you haven't been chasing money vigorously. So, you know, as the job as an engineer, I spent so much time chasing money. And I call up, you know, different authorities. Are you paying me? Where's my money? Where's my payment? Because I understand that, you know, a certain month, I mean, at that time, I probably don't understand because my boss said, hey, Ting, go and chase money, go and chase money. You know, okay, go and chase money. But then when they see the picture, when you have 3 months ago they haven't been paying you this month, you know that there's going to be a negative because your expenses don't stop. Your work is ongoing every month. So if you don't go and chase money, next month they're still not paying you, your negative will become more negative, and then your bank account will drop. And then if you drop under your planning of your cash flow, then you basically have to borrow money from other account already, you know, other project already. And if other projects are having the same issues, that means that company is going to go into a financial disaster, you know, looking at bankruptcy already. When you have all these people coming to knock on the doors asking for money. Okay. So I know this is quite a lot of things to digest for everybody. So I will probably stop here. Financial S-curve, I want you to read through first. It's the same thing, okay? It's the same thing. So financial S-curve and physical S-curve is the same thing, okay? Physical S-curve, the method of doing is the same. It's just that for physical S-curve, sometimes you can use time, okay? So you can use percentage of work, meaning that you will take that, okay, I'll quickly explain now because we really want to move on to quality management next week. So let's finish this and then we will actually flow on to the other works. So what happened is here you will take activity A is how much percent of the overall. Okay, so some people base it on money, but I don't think so. It shouldn't be the case. Okay, so you can allocate a percentage. This work will take how many percent of the overall work. Okay, so this is example for 2020. All together you have 100%. So with this percentage here, okay, again just like you load it up 12%, then you take it and then you take 4%, 4%, 4%, 6%, 6%. So this we can do equal. Most of the time you can do equal. Okay, distribute it equally, and then you take it and do cumulative, and then you will do a physical S-curve. Okay, physical, and so this is your physical S-curve. So why do you do physical S-curve, you may ask me. Physical S-curve is basically to tell the client that this is the work, how it will progress, the percentage, how it will progress. The first month will be doing how many percent, 4%. Second month will be doing 8%, at a quarter of 8%, and slowly 100% will complete. It's also to monitoring purpose. So we don't take this to use for EV, but we take it to look at the chart, the curve, so that you understand the spread of the work, the amount of resources that is required, and also the activity intensities, and where is the most critical activity. This will probably be used for more on the risk management side. Some of the activities may be a bit more intense, then you need to actually work on the possibility of something going wrong, with the physical work on site. So there's some more notes here on how, I was describing just now on the actual curve. This is the budgeted cost of work schedule. Okay, so you have, budgeted cost of work schedule is PV. This is EV. Okay, so EV, you will take the actual tracking gun. From the tracking gun, you will calculate based on the physical also can, or based on the financial also can. But if you're doing the PV, you need to do the financial one. Then you will draw the second line, the actual EV. This will be the EV. Okay. Don't want to confuse you. This will be EV. Yeah. And there's another set of notes here that also talks about physical S-curve. The same, actually, I would say, yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing, actually, yeah. So I will give it to you anyway, but these are the steps here, and then you just do what I told you. So for physical S-curve, if you refer to these notes, then it's a bit more detailed, it's step by step kind of thing, So for these notes here, I have explained it more onto the more on the financial one that we're talking about, and this physical one is the same thing as what I've given you the other one. Then we've also got these notes here that talks about the actual S-curve and all that. You can do that for both. You can do that for EV. So you can do that for PV. What am I talking about? I am tired. Okay. I'm actually blurring out already. For this particular section of the notes, you can actually it's actually the EV or the physical S-curve, how in the physical S-curve you have different percentage here. Okay, so here when you actually draw back your Gantt chart with the actual work completed, you also have the different percentage here, you see. So now that you have done, this is actually just now how many percent here? Let's say 666. Supposed to be 666. So let's say if I draw a line here and your project is already delayed, meaning that every month you're delaying, so the total will always be the same. It cannot be different one. It's just that there will be maybe first month you're okay, you have 6, second month you have 6, third month you have 6, and then suddenly the last 2 months you actually drop. You only do 4% and 4%. And then you have extra 4% here that you need to catch up with, you see. So this is the actual. So you have to go back to your tracking gun and get this, and then redraw your EV in that sense for physical. So if this is a financial one, the EV one, the actual EV one, you will take it, you will times it, like let's say if I cut it off at 10/5, then I need to take I will need to take the amount of work that is done here and times it with the cost, okay, with the cost, and then I will get my VCWP, my EV. Okay, then I can do my EV technique. That will be how we are looking at this actual versus planning. Okay.